Our next guest on the show, and please welcome in joining me Anil Rai Gupta, the chairman and MD at Havells India, joining in the show right now. Mr. Gupta, hi, morning. Thanks so much for joining in. Firstly, hope everyone at Havells, you and yours, are all safe and trying to stay at home as much as possible.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, thank you for asking. And yes, we are all doing well. Hope everyone at ET Now is also doing very well.
Yes, staying at home and running the channel from our living rooms as much as possible. Mr. Gupta, today we've invited you to talk about the India Revival Mission, and under that, the Atmanirbhar Bharat Mission. The government has been pretty vocal about going local now. The Prime Minister has made his push on the Atmanirbhar Bharat theme as well. But do you really think it's time that when it comes to white goods as well, we move our dependence from China to India?
Well, absolutely high time. I think I would say this industry has seen Atmanirbharta over many years, especially we're talking about Havells. We realized that we can't depend upon China for a long period of time if we want to give quality products, good service to the consumer. So we actually, even before Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India, we started investing heavily into world-class and world-scale manufacturing almost about 15 to 20 years ago, for all products which were traditionally thought to be imported from China, whether it is miniature circuit breakers or switchgear or lighting. We were the first ones to set up a lighting manufacturing facility in India, whereas China was manufacturing 60% of the lighting for the world. So I think a little bit of, let's say, a long-term view of the economics, as well as also a bit of a nationalistic feeling that if China can do it, why can't India? So we started investing heavily, and as you just mentioned, we almost 95% of what we sell is manufactured in our own factories in India, and globally competitive, globally quality competitive as well. So I think it's a little bit of a misconception that we are too dependent upon China. Yes, the figures may say so, but we don't need to be. And I think it's high time that we started 6 years back the Make in India program. Now, very recently, the Prime Minister is talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think we as manufacturers, as companies, really need to step up our will and determination that we can manufacture products at globally competitive prices and quality.
Sure, and I'm so glad that Havells is taking the lead at that, and not just now, but for the last 6 years as well, like you mentioned. But Mr. Gupta, self-reliance is one step. One has to really go a step further. Do you really think the electronic white goods industry in India can compete at a global landscape? Because with China, it's not just about the scale or the size, it's also about quality.
Right, you're right. China has all kinds of manufacturers. Not that China has, all high quality manufacturers supplying to the western part of the world. There are low quality, low cost manufacturers as well. So as manufacturing is all about what you put in as inputs, whether it is raw materials, machines, technology. And if you can put in all that, there is no reason why you can't bring out a quality product. So you can't be stingy about putting in capital or technology. So you need to invest in R&D, you need to invest in machines, you need to invest in scale. And I think that's what China has done over the last 30 years. And many of the industries have started doing in India. In fact, you'll be happy to know that much of the consumer durables are actually manufactured in India. Yes, there is some dependence on China, but I think over a period of time, even in the air conditioners, which you talked about, last 2 or 3 years, there's been a tremendous shift to manufacturing in India. When we acquired Lloyd 2 years ago, the entire sales were happening from imports from China. Today, 100% of what we sell in India is completely manufactured in India in very globally competitive, globally quality competitive products, and we are now open to export to the world. And we are getting traction now from the rest of the countries because people don't want to depend on one country. So they are looking out for competitive manufacturers. And I think India has a huge opportunity now to become more global.
Sure. But in this urge to become self-reliant and Atmanirbhar, do you really think a manufacturing shift from China to India may in any which way unfavorably impact the production costs and pricing power? And please do correct me if I'm wrong here.
Well, initially, maybe there could be some short-term disturbances, some increase in cost, and that's why a little bit of a pragmatic approach is required. As long as we are not dependent upon foreign capital or we are providing employment to India, I think a little bit of dependence on any country, whether it's China or any other country, is okay. This is a global world. Yes, we are becoming more local, but it is a global world and you should keep buying products from where you get the best quality and price. And so if we want to develop industry in India, we need to give a little bit more time for all kinds of components to be manufactured in India. And it's not a long-term process. It's a little bit of a medium-term process. And I think the government is really looking at it, and hopefully things will get much better soon. But the outcome, the finished good products, I think mostly we have the capability to manufacture in India for the Indian consumers as well as the global consumers.
Good morning. So let's talk about moving then in that vein, in particular for segments that you operate in. There's the lighting and fixtures sector, and that's one of the key components for the LED chips, which is currently imported from China. So what are the current options? What are the alternatives, or what's the strategy in place to now source these domestically so that you can become more self-reliant?
India is not a big manufacturer of LED chips. India manufactures lighting fittings, lighting products, and as I said, the final finished good products are made in India. Especially in the last 3 or 4 years, especially larger companies have invested in manufacturing. There is one component which is LED chips. It is a commodity. Right now, we do not have plants in India to manufacture that. But as I said, the world is open for India. And over the next 1 or 2 years, 3 years, there will be more investments coming into India to make LED chips. So I think this concept of dependence on China is a misconception. So whether it is LED chips or compressors or motors for any products, I think India has options. India can continue to buy from China if required, but it has many options available all across the world. But I think going forward 2 or 3 years, we will have options within the country as well.
Okay. Lloyd's has a high dependence on imports for most of its products, 19% of revenue that is. Do you plan on curtailing imports from China, and also just an outlook for the Lloyd's business as well?
Well, Lloyd set up its first manufacturing facility. We acquired it in 2017. As you rightly said, it had high dependence on imports. We set up, and 75% of the production comes from, of the revenues come from air conditioners. Everything was imported from China. But since last year, when we have set up this facility, we invested 400 crores in making a world-class facility. Today, we don't have to depend upon China. Everything is manufactured in India. And the rest of the products like washing machines, refrigerators, there is practically no dependence on China. So it has completely turned around in the last 2.5 years from being completely dependent on China to being completely manufactured in India.
Are there alternatives for components available in the domestic market, and how much would this increase your RM cost? And also, now Havells has about 90% of in-house manufacturing compared to its peers. It's quite substantial. Do you see yourself getting more into manufacturing going forward?
Well, I think the way we think about it is that, whatever we sell, we should have a complete control on the supply chain, whether we manufacture in-house or we get it manufactured through outsourced suppliers. But we've always found that if you want to have better control on technology, cost, and quality, we've always invested in manufacturing. So we've invested, as compared to peers, heavily on manufacturing. And yes, though we turn out to be a more brand and distribution-oriented company, it is completely backed by R&D and manufacturing. So it's when you say whether we'll get it more into manufacturing, we are already into manufacturing, and that has been the core philosophy of Havells for decades.
Mr. Gupta, I guess a lot will also depend on demand revival. Do help us understand what are the feelers that you're getting on ground about an overall demand resurgence post the lockdown getting lifted when it comes to consumer goods at large?
Well, I think first of all, I'll not be talking specifically anything about the company because we are going to announce the results shortly. But generally speaking, if you talk about the consumer has come back and they are buying products. Especially the consumer products are seeing demand revival. The building installation products are also seeing a demand revival. Somewhere there is a little bit of a slowdown in the industrial sales, which we were already experiencing even pre-COVID era. And I think it is taking a little bit more time with labor coming back for all industries to be coming on stream, all construction sites to be coming on stream. So I think over the short to medium term, if things continue like this, we should definitely see a recovery very soon.
And talking about recovery, Mr. Gupta, all the indicators and the data points that are coming in, whether be it tractor sales, FMCG sales, they all indicate that rural India is bouncing back faster as opposed to the urban segments of the country. Do you really think when it comes to consumer goods as well, the demand revival is going to be bigger and perhaps lead when it comes to tier 2 and 3 cities?
Yeah, so relatively so because the larger cities, the metropolitan towns still are facing some issues of either lockdowns or construction sites not coming back fully on stream. So there is a better revival in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Rural is quite new for us. I mean, very, very small towns. So earlier they used to be fed from these small semi-urban towns, but now we have a direct presence in the rural. So both in semi-urban towns, tier 2, tier 3 cities, tier 4, tier 5 cities, as well as some rural areas, we're definitely seeing a better relative outcome as compared to the larger metropolitan cities.
Such a pleasure having you today on the show and putting things into perspective, whether the consumer goods industry is geared up to be fully Atmanirbhar or not. Thanks as always.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the word coming in from the Havells management about whether or not the consumer goods industry is ready to become self-reliant or not. Anil Rai Gupta, the chairman and MD at Havells India. We're going to take a very quick break on that note. Haven't taken one in a while, but do come right back. We've got lots of other special interactions as well lined up.